Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. A massive winter storm slamming the Northeast, thousands of flights canceled, and more than 40 million people under blizzard warnings. We have the update there. President Trump has some strong words of criticism for the Supreme Court's tariff ruling, but says it also gives him more powers. And the president warns of higher tariffs for countries that, quote, play games. The Mexican military kills a top cartel leader known as El Mencho. The situation on the ground as violence breaks out there. And a federal judge rules that the Justice Department can't release a prosecutor's report on the classified documents case against President Trump. The same judge dismissed the case in 2024.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Breaking just now, former British ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, has been arrested. He's suspected of misconduct in public office. His arrest today follows revelations about his ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. London's Metropolitan Police say a 72-year-old man was arrested in a statement in connection with an investigation into a former government minister. Mandelson was removed from Britain's most prestigious diplomatic post in September when details of his friendship with Epstein emerged. Emails released by the Department of Justice in late January revealed a closer relationship than previously known. Mandelson resigned from UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party this month. He also stepped down from his seat in Parliament's upper chamber. He has previously said he very deeply regretted his association with Epstein. He has not commented publicly on the latest developments. Millions of people across New York City and much of the Northeast are stuck at home today. With heavy snow and powerful winds intensifying, road travel bans and blizzard warnings remain in effect. Snow has been falling at a rate of 2 to 3 inches per hour from New York through Massachusetts. The National Weather Service reports 15 inches of snow in New York City's Central Park. Wind gusts are topping 30 miles per hour. Visibility is dangerously low. The National Weather Service says travel conditions are nearly impossible. According to FlightAware, more than 5,000 flights across the United States were canceled today. Most cancellations were in New York, New Jersey, and Boston. From Maryland to Maine, more than 40 million people are under blizzard warnings. Non-emergency road travel was banned in New York City and New Jersey through noon today. One stranded air traveler says his flight was ready to go when the winds picked up.
We got on the actual plane. They were de-icing it, and by the time they de-iced it, the winds, I guess, picked up.
And what time was that?
Maybe around, we were supposed to board, we boarded at 6, maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock. So we all got off the plane and then winded up sleeping here. So this is something I'll check off my bucket list.
Had it with the snow. This winter has been too cold, too snowy, too miserable. I'm ready for it to be over.
Words can't describe. This is a once-in-a-lifetime storm. This is amazing. So my dog loves it, and I'm just gonna hunker down inside.
I think that's a very special moment. I haven't seen so much snow in 15 years.
States of emergency have been declared in New York, Philadelphia, and other cities. The storm knocked out power to nearly 600,000 customers along the East Coast. That's according to PowerOutage.us. New York City and Boston have canceled public school classes. The heaviest snow is expected to taper off by this afternoon. In New York City, officials are recruiting shovelers to help clear the snow. Meanwhile, the House and Senate have postponed votes scheduled for today. The Department of Homeland Security remains shut down. The Senate expected to take a procedural vote on a DHS funding bill tomorrow at 5 p.m. President Trump's State of the Union address remains on track for tomorrow evening. And a federal judge has ruled that the Justice Department can't release a prosecutor's report on the classified documents case against President Trump. The same judge dismissed the case in 2024 after finding that special counsel Jack Smith was unlawfully appointed. District Judge Eileen Cannon ruled that the release would present a manifest injustice to Trump and his two co-defendants. In her decision, Cannon explained that Trump and all criminal defendants are entitled to a presumption of innocence. Cannon added that a jury never heard the case. The DOJ, under former President Biden, indicted Trump in 2023, accusing him of unlawfully retaining classified material following his first term in office. Trump and his two co-defendants, a personal aide and a manager at his Mar-A-Lago club in Palm Beach, had pleaded not guilty to all charges. And a critical situation in Mexico right now after the military killed a top cartel leader known as El Mencho. The U.S. Embassy there issuing an alert for Americans to shelter in place as the cartel hits back at the Mexican government. Here's the latest.
The United States is urging Americans across multiple Mexican states to shelter in place following ongoing security operations and cartel-related violence in Mexico. The security alert follows the killing of Nemesio Esquero Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, leader of a Jalisco New Generation cartel. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico issued an updated security alert yesterday, warning of road blockages and criminal activity across wide areas of the country. U.S. government personnel in several locations have also been ordered to shelter in place. Airports remain open, but flight operations have been disrupted. Mexico's defense ministry said El Mencho died after a military operation in the state of Jalisco. Jalisco's governor describing the aftermath as critical.
Vivimos horas críticas.
We are experiencing critical hours in which incidents were addressed in various locations across the state and the metropolitan area.
El objetivo principal
The main objective during this period has been to safeguard the safety of the people.
de las personas.
The White House confirmed the U.S. provided intelligence support in the operation. Additional cartel members were also killed and arrested. El Mencho's death was confirmed by the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel is one of Mexico's most powerful criminal organizations, starting in 2009 and quickly growing since then. The Trump administration designated the cartel as a foreign terrorist organization last year. Authorities say the operation against El Mencho triggered immediate retaliation. Eyewitness video from Guadalajara International Airport showed passengers sheltering on the floor as smoke rose in the distance. Travelers also reporting gunfire and burning vehicles near the airport. In neighboring states, officials say roads are now mostly clear.
At this moment, all roads in Guanajuato are clear and unaffected. There is no risk when traveling on the state or federal highways of Guanajuato.
The regional governors also warning about misinformation circulating online.
We've seen some cases of manipulation through artificial intelligence, so we ask citizens to stay informed through the institutional channels of the state government as well as the federal government.
Officials are urging residents to remain vigilant, follow instructions from authorities, and monitor official updates as security forces continue operations across the affected states.
Mexican officials say at least 25 members of the National Guard were killed in attacks in the state of Jalisco. The violence following the killing of El Mencho Sunday. His death, of course, as you just heard, triggering waves of violence across Mexico as cartel members seek revenge. We'll be keeping you updated there. Meanwhile, President Trump today weighed in on the Supreme Court's tariff ruling, calling it, quote, ridiculous, dumb, and internationally divisive. But the president says it accidentally gave him more powers. Trump said the court ruled the U.S. cannot charge license fees on foreign countries. However, he said the court approved other tariffs. He added they can now be applied in a, quote, powerful and obnoxious way with legal certainty. Trump accused the court of making a poor decision for the wrong people, while also highlighting what he called ongoing threats from China and other nations. He emphasized the ruling strengthens his authority to use tariffs against countries he says have long taken advantage of the United States. In another post, Trump said any countries that wanted to play games with U.S. trade deals would face much higher tariffs. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says none of the trading partners that struck deals with the Trump administration have indicated intentions to withdraw. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that, plus reactions from key administration members.
Trade Representative Jamieson Greer said he spoke with his counterpart from the European Union over the weekend, as well as officials from other countries. The trade rep says the deals were not premised on whether or not the emergency tariff litigation would rise or fall. Greer says Congress has delegated enormous tariff-setting authority to the president over the years, speaking on CBS News' Face the Nation.
So even though the Supreme Court struck down tariffs under one authority, tariffs under other national security elements remain in place.
Greer defended tariffs, saying they help negotiate trade deals, reshore critical industries, and attract billions in new investments on U.S. soil.
We expect to have continuity in the president's tariff program. We know that these laws work, they're tried and true, and so we'll have continuity. The policy hasn't changed, just the tools have changed.
Greer also criticized the SCOTUS decision.
It's foreign companies that are benefiting from the tariffs being struck down.
Meanwhile, the European Commission said yesterday it wants full clarity from the United States after the Supreme Court tariff ruling. Following the ruling, President Trump announced a 10% global tariff under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, before increasing it to 15% following a detailed review of the court's decision. Under a trade agreement reached last July, the United States agreed to cap tariffs on most EU imports to 15%. In return, the EU agreed to eliminate tariffs on all U.S. industrial goods. It also agreed to increase purchases of military and defense equipment from the United States. Switzerland commented on the tariff ruling, saying it should prepare for the likelihood that U.S. tariffs will remain in place permanently. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the SCOTUS ruling was a very narrow ruling in terms of the president's ability to use emergency powers to collect revenues, speaking on Fox News.
The Supreme Court said the president can put in a full embargo, but he cannot collect $1. So the president still has the most draconian measure for negotiations.
Bessent says Treasury projections show 2026 revenues from tariffs are unchanged, and that applies to the future as well.
The president announced on Friday and then amended over the weekend 15% global tariff using a very robust authority from 1974. Those will be layered on with Section 232, Section 301, and the 122s, they run for 150 days.
Bessent says during that time, studies will be done, which will likely lead to increased tariff revenues. The Supreme Court did not address potential tariff refunds. They remanded it back to the lower court. Bessent says the administration will follow their future legal rulings. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Thank you, Daniel. And major U.S. trading partners are reacting to the Supreme Court's tariff ruling and President Trump's latest 15% tariff. The European Parliament today postponing a vote on its trade deal with the U.S.
But this means not that we never vote on that. No, we want to have clarity about the situation. We want to have clarity from the United States that they are respecting the deal, because that's a crucial element, that we want to have stability. That's for trade relations important, but this is for specifically important for investment.
The U.S. and the EU reached the deal in July. The EU was scheduled to vote on it tomorrow, but now says it's unclear if there will be additional measures or how the U.S. will guarantee the deal is upheld. Meanwhile, the UK says it does not expect Trump's new tariffs to impact the majority of its trade deal with the U.S. The UK expects discussions between the two sides to continue this week. Officials are not ruling out the possibility of retaliatory tariffs. China, meanwhile, is making a full assessment of the latest tariff upheaval. The regime says it wants the U.S. to lift unilateral tariffs. Joining us now to discuss the High Court's tariffs ruling is Tim Doscher, Executive Director at Unleash Prosperity. Now, good to have you with us today, Tim. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the Supreme Court's ruling did not say the president couldn't impose tariffs. Rather, he couldn't use IEEPA. And Trump and Bessent said tariffs would remain in effect and 2026 revenue would remain unchanged through the use of several other provisions. Those are Section 122 authority combined with potentially enhanced Section 232 and Section 301 tariffs. Could you explain how these alternative pathways work?
How much time do you have?
Right.
Yeah, this is a very, very complex ruling. It really is, because this was a novel avenue for the president to unilaterally slap tariffs on other countries without going to Congress. And we just need to point out that it's a good thing to have clarity from the High Court saying that taxes exist and they initiate in the Congress, where the people can have a vote. It can't just unilaterally come for an unspecified amount of time under the guise of an emergency. Now, what can be done in terms of an emergency are the things that you can directly link to that, and that's what you're talking about with things like Section 232 or 112. These are all areas that have been carved out that President Trump actually used in the first term. Ambassador Lighthizer in the first term, we put those steel tariffs on. Those remain during Biden, and they remain to this day, even after the Supreme Court ruling. There are lumber tariffs. There are tariffs on copper. These are all have been, the case has been proven that these are national security issues. Therefore, we need to have the tariff on these. So what you're going to see here is you're going to see President Trump make the case for a whole lot of other tariffs falling under these provisions. And then you're just going to have to see if Congress takes those up and makes them permanent.
Okay, looking at the current tariffs, the Supreme Court didn't mention anything about refunding the collected tariffs, but there are over 1,000 companies now filing suit. What happens with those collected funds?
Well, the court, as we heard in the great segment before, that's going to go to a lower court. They're going to adjudicate that. And now I believe if something is found illegal, then they should be there should be repayment on things that have been paid for an illegal thing. So I do think, both logically and legally, that's a good thing. We need to make sure people are made whole. Now, the courts didn't specifically say that because this is a novel case, and so they're going to allow the lower courts to determine these cases one by one. So it could be a mess. It could definitely be a long time coming, but I think that this is the right route to go.
So the most high-profile company that joined the suit against Trump's tariffs is Costco. But most of the largest retailers have not yet joined, including Amazon, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walgreens, CVS. Why do you think they didn't join in?
Well, you mentioned, a couple things. Home Depot, I know they're not as reliant on tariffs, on goods coming in from foreign countries. A lot of these places they may not be as reliant on goods coming in from foreign countries. Remember, this is $175 billion. Look, that's a lot of money. I'm not trying to downplay that. But in the span of a multi-trillion-dollar economy, the tariff issue is relatively small. So you have to weigh out what is their move. They are processing all the information. What is their loss? What is their damage? And so the bigger company like Amazon, it's going to take maybe a little bit of time.
All right. Now, Trump has used the threat of tariffs to end wars and to onshore manufacturing. Yeah. Democrats say the end result, though, is higher prices for Americans. The latest inflation numbers are currently at around 2.4% for January. What's your take on the effects of tariffs and the price of goods?
Well, look, tariffs are a tax. Long-standing tariffs on the consumer do result typically in higher prices. But the thing is if you look at these tariffs over the last year, we haven't really seen them hitting consumer products, really. Maybe to a slight extent, but not really. I mean, the inflation numbers are coming from shelter and rent and things like that. The growth in those are coming down. You're seeing a lot of the inflation growth coming down in all the other areas. So we actually haven't seen that materialize yet. So the Democrats may be getting ahead of their skis. Now, let's just say this. The inflation number still is a little bit too high. We should be at 2% growth, not 2.4% growth in inflation. But I will say this. It's really, really hard to get down to that 2% target after President Biden took us all the way up to 9.2% in July of 2022. There's a lot to recover from. A lot of money was spent that we didn't have, and that did shockwaves throughout the economy, and we're still recovering from that. So while this is definitely, we don't like tariffs on for long-term amounts of time, we like tariffs to make deals, which allows us to grow and have access to markets and have people have better access to our market.
So for workers, for small businesses and businesses of all scales, what should they be watching for now that this ruling has come down?
I think that we need to figure out, again, we need to figure out the repayment, how that's going to go. And I think we need to figure out what are we going to do in terms of doubling down on making these trade deals stick? Look, we heard about the EU saying, well, we need certainty. Well, join the club. We all need certainty. But the bottom line is that you weren't giving us access to your markets, and yet you were charging us higher tariffs. We were giving you access to our markets, and we weren't charging you high tariffs. So we got to make sure that these countries understand that we're here to stay. We're going to continue to press the button on these issues. And by the way, like we said, some of those tariffs are not going to be lifted because they are under provisions that the court sees as a legitimate national concern, national security concern. So what consumers have to figure out is are we going to continue to double down on regulation cutting, on tax cutting, on removing that barrier from businesses' ability to grow? And are we going to continue to double down on these trade deals, which of course is the president's number one concern at this point? And I think that we're going to find a way to do that.
Certainly, with President Trump at the helm, he seems determined to continue on with those policies. Great to review the latest with you. Tim Dosher, thank you so much.
Whew, you got to take a breath after that one, Stephanie.
Right. Okay, next up, President Trump hosted families of Americans who were killed by illegal immigrants during an event today at the White House. Trump recounted the story of Laken Riley, a 22-year-old nursing student who was killed by a Venezuelan national back in 2024.
Laken was viciously attacked, brutally beaten and murdered by an illegal alien gang member who the last administration heartlessly released into our country. No problems. Let him in. They let in everybody. They didn't check anybody. They let in everybody. Among the first bills I signed into law after taking office last year was the Laken Riley Act. I'm so proud of it. To ensure illegal alien criminals are rapidly removed from the United States of America.
You have fought a fight that most people would not want to have to fight. Most people wouldn't. They would just say it's just easier not to do this. And President Trump you are doing a thankless job that most people just wouldn't do. And I just can't thank you enough.
Trump made his remarks during today's Angel Families Remembrance ceremony. The president declaring February 22nd as Angel Family Day, a reference to the date that Laken Riley was killed. The president signed a proclamation following his comments, designating February 22nd as a day to honor victims of crimes committed by illegal immigrants. And tomorrow, President Trump delivers the first State of the Union of his second term. What issues will he address, and how has the country changed since his first term in office? Join NTD's Tiffany Meyer, Steve Lance, and Mari Otsu tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern for a preview of the major topics the president's expected to cover in his State of the Union address. And on Tuesday, join us at 7 p.m. Eastern as we track the president ahead of his speech, hear reactions from lawmakers, and speak with panels on what it all means for you. Don't miss it. And an investigation is underway after law enforcement shot and killed a 21-year-old man at Mar-A-Lago, President Trump's Florida estate. Authorities say the suspect was inside the estate's security perimeter, armed with a shotgun. Here are the details.
Law enforcement says the suspect was found inside the property's front gate at around 1:30 a.m. Sunday morning. A deputy from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and 2 Secret Service agents confronted him.
He was ordered to drop those 2 pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene.
Aside from the suspect, there were no other fatalities or injuries. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were in Washington, D.C. at the time of the incident after attending a governor's dinner Saturday evening. The sheriff said the FBI is leading the investigation into the incident.
One thing I would ask the public is if you live in the area of the shooting, please check your exterior cameras for last night, early this morning. If you see anything that looks suspicious or out of place, please contact us.
The young man has been identified as Austin Tucker Martin from Cameron, North Carolina. His mother reported him missing Saturday night. The president and first lady were not on the property by Sunday morning, but others were. According to foreign affairs expert Bart Marcois, something doesn't seem right.
All we know about him is that he was a white male. At this point, we don't know motivation, background, any of that. And the real question is, how did he get inside Mar-A-Lago? I have been here for the past week. I'm still down here. I have friends who are still inside. The security there is impressive and comprehensive. How did this guy get inside the compound that is guarded by local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, and the Secret Service?
Officials are also investigating where the firearm carried by the suspect was purchased. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt praised the Secret Service for acting quickly while most Americans were sleeping.
The Trump Organization has confirmed plans for its first tower in Australia. The Gold Coast structure is expected to become the country's tallest building. The 91-story skyscraper will rise over 1,100 feet. It will feature a 6-star resort hotel, 270 luxury apartments, retail space, a beach club, and a swimming pool. The billion-dollar project was officially signed at Mar-A-Lago this month with Eric Trump. Construction will provide roughly 500 jobs, with another 500 jobs when the tower opens. 1/3 of the building will house the luxury hotel, while the high-end apartments are expected to start at $3.5 million each. The Trump Organization says the tower will redefine beachfront sophistication and set a new benchmark for luxury development in Australia. Coming up, the U.S. ordering non-essential diplomats to leave Lebanon. The latest actions amid tensions with Iran. And Hungary vows to block new European Union sanctions on Russia and a 90 billion euro loan for Ukraine. Find out why. I'm Stephanie Cox, and this is World Watch. U.S. and Iranian officials are set to resume nuclear talks on Thursday in Geneva. That's according to the foreign minister of Oman, the country mediating the talks. Iran's top diplomat told CBS there's a good chance for a diplomatic solution, but tensions between the two nations do remain high. President Trump has warned that limited strikes against Iran are possible if talks fail. Iran said today it would respond ferociously to any strike by the U.S. Both sides have stressed that the upcoming talks will focus exclusively on Iran's nuclear program. Long-standing disagreements over missiles and armed groups remain unresolved. Now, amid tensions with Iran, the U.S. is exercising more caution in the Middle East. The State Department is ordering non-essential diplomats and their family members to leave Lebanon. The State Department says the decision is based on a continuous review of the regional security environment there. Essential personnel will remain at their posts, and the U.S. Embassy in Beirut remains operational. The department says it's a temporary measure to ensure the safety of their personnel. We'll be keeping an eye on that. The U.S. today calling the nuclear control treaty between the U.S. and Russia a bad deal. The treaty is known as New START. A U.S. official saying Russia is aiding the expansion of China's nuclear arsenal.
We could not accept an offer to maintain some of New START's central limits. Asking the United States to confine itself to bilateral limits with Russia, especially while Moscow helps boost Beijing's capacity to increase its arsenal size and thereby puts upward pressure on U.S. requirements, is the definition of a bad deal.
And China had only around 200 nuclear weapons at the start of the New START signing. Now Beijing's on track to have the material necessary for more than 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. Officials say the threat is made worse by Russian assistance to China's CFR 600 reactors. The government says Russia is transferring highly enriched uranium fuel assemblies to that program. Officials warn those can produce the material China needs to help expand its nuclear arsenal. And Hungary has vowed to block new European Union sanctions on Russia and a 90 billion euro loan for Ukraine. It cited an ongoing outage of Russian oil through a key pipeline. Hungary says Kyiv is responsible for the disruption and that it will not change its stance until deliveries resume. The move comes on the eve of the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Hungary's foreign minister explains the decision. Check it out.
We are not agreeing with passing the 20th package because Ukraine decided not to restart the oil deliveries to Hungary, with which they do endanger our energy security. This is it, and no one has the right to put our energy security at risk because it's an issue of national sovereignty.
As we have heard some very strong statements from Hungary, that's why I don't really, see that they are going to change this, unfortunately, today, this position that they have.
The development comes as attacks in the southern Odessa region killed 2 people overnight. Ukraine's President Zelensky warning the world must apply intense pressure on Moscow, accusing President Putin of seeking global dominance. EU foreign ministers met in Brussels today. Approval of the 20th sanctions package and the Ukraine loan is unlikely due to Hungary and Slovakia blocking it. Russian oil shipments to the 2 countries have been interrupted since late January. Ukrainian officials say the cause was Russian drone attacks that damaged a key pipeline. And over to Hong Kong, a court of appeals today dismissed all appeals by 12 pro-democracy activists in the city's largest case under a draconian national security law there. The ruling upholds jail terms for 11 former lawmakers and activists. They took part in an unofficial 2020 primary election, part of the so-called Hong Kong 47 case.
Even if what they did and what they planned were lawful, according to the basic law, the court wouldn't consider anything else and just judged that they wanted to subvert the state. It's ridiculous.
Sentences for the convicted range from 4 to 10 years. 2 activists had their acquittals confirmed. The prosecutions have crushed much of Hong Kong's once thriving democracy movement. They have drawn condemnation from rights groups and foreign governments, including the US, Britain, and Australia. After the ruling, the activists appeared calm, waving to family and supporters. And coming up, the USA's men's hockey team captures Olympic gold for the first time since 1980, defeating Canada in overtime. A clutch game winner, a dominant performance in the net, and a surprise call from President Trump. And the Milano-Cortina Olympics becomes a part of sports history. A former figure skater turned cameraman captures footage of the Winter Games. Welcome back. The United States has won its first men's Olympic hockey gold since 1980, defeating Canada 2-1 in overtime at the Milano-Cortina Games. Jack Hughes scored the winning goal just over a minute into 3-on-3 overtime, sending the U.S. team and fans into a wild celebration. Goaltender Connor Hellebuck was outstanding, stopping 41 of 42 shots. The victory came exactly 46 years after the miracle on ice. The team also honored late teammate Johnny Gaudreau, who died in 2024. They held up his number 13 jersey and brought his children onto the ice for the medal ceremony. FBI Director Kash Patel was seen in Italy celebrating with the U.S. men's hockey team. Patel, a longtime hockey fan, posted on social media multiple times from the event. Patel thanked the team for, in his words, representing the greatest country on earth. Following the win, President Trump got on the phone with the team, inviting them and the women's team to his State of the Union tomorrow night. Captain Austin Matthews discusses his call with Trump.
Yeah, I mean, we're all proud Americans, obviously, and I mean, this is a huge moment for us. It's a huge moment for the United States, and he called and just congratulated us. I think there's a lot of moving parts as far as our travels back home. But yeah, we'll kind of see what happens. But obviously, it's an honor to wear this jersey and to represent the U.S. and to go home with a gold medal.
The Winter Olympics may be over, but footage of the competition will live forever. This year, a former figure skater turned cameraman was on the ice to document the games. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on his story.
Olympic figure skaters dazzled spectators at the 2026 Winter Games. Former Team USA ice dancer Jordan Cowan got a unique perspective. Now a roaming camera operator, he films skaters from the end of their routines through their exit. It's a gap in coverage that he calls unexplored territory in figure skating broadcasts.
It's special. Like, this is the first time it's been done. It's my first time at the Olympics, and I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better first experience.
Like many elite athletes, competition for Cowan eventually came to an end, so he had to determine what life would look like after the ice. He decided to turn two of his passions, film and science, into a career.
While I was a competitive skater, I felt guilty for not pursuing these things, but at the same time, I felt like pursuing them would take me away from the sport. When I finally realized I could combine them together into something new that I'd never seen before, that's when I realized it all just made sense.
Cowan uses a cinema lens with manual focus and manual zoom. He says the equipment is part of an effort to return to more traditional filmmaking techniques.
What I love about it is it's the way I film now, it's kind of trying to create a more timeless look than a trendy look. So the rig that I shoot with now is like my maximum way of storytelling on ice.
Cowan has never competed at the Olympics, but he performs a crucial role in documenting the games and the personal stories that come with them.
It's an honor to be here and to be part of the Olympic story and create these memories that I think even the skaters' friends and family can point to it and say, like, that's my cousin, that's my aunt. Like, those are the people that bring these athletes here in the first place.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
That's all we have time for this hour, but if you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at news.today@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Stephanie Cox. Thanks for watching.
Tuesday, a primetime reveal from the president.
We are going to renew unlimited promise of the American dream.
His vision for the year and success so far. Where will he try to lead Congress, the nation, and the world? Join NTD's Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer to track the president ahead of his speech. Reactions from lawmakers and in-depth panels on what it all means for you. Watch NTD's live special coverage of the State of the Union, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NTD.